We are live, brother.
Folks, what is up? Welcome back to Vol Talk. We ain't just talking ball, we're talking Vol, baby. We are here to talk all things volunteer sports. That's my brother Austin. I am Blake. And Austin, today we might have a bit of a short show, but it should be a fun show. We got a couple fun discussions to have, brother. So we are getting straight into this kind of, I guess it's not breaking news anymore, but it's the hot off the press news that Joey Aguilar has split off from the Diego Pavia lawsuit, has his own lawsuit, and has hired a new high profile lawyer, Austin. So we're going to be talking about that and what that could mean for the 2026 Tennessee football team. And then we are talking about something that we talked about last week's show, Austin. Charles Bediako, his eligibility, and you mentioned, brother, you are a Nostradamus. You talked about the slippery slope, and here we are, not a week later, and we are hurtling down the slippery slope at maximum velocity. We're going to be talking about that, and then we are also going to be reviewing both men's and women's basketball. Austin, little bit of a mixed bag there, but the men are at least on a roll, so we're happy to see that. So fun stuff to talk about today, Austin.
Yeah, solid show. Potentially can get Aguilar back depending on how everything plays out. We'll get into some of the details of that and kind of what it means for the roster. Some interesting discussions around that. And then, yeah, the Amari Bailey situation. We have our first official NBA guy that actually played NBA minutes trying to come back
Yep.
and play in college basketball. So excited to talk about that as well because I find it interesting and I find it, fascinating where college sports is headed, man. It's interesting times.
You know,
Blake,
it not.
oh, you're here. Okay, I think you're muted for a sec.
I yeah, having some technical difficulties here. My apologies, but it's definitely interesting and interesting, not exactly in a good way, Austin, in terms of what we want to happen with college sports. So we're going to get into all that, folks. It's going to be a good discussion. Please jump in the chat and let us know what you think. We already got chat off to the races here. We got Rachel, my wife. Love you, Rachel. Good to see you, babe. And then we've got Rhonda in the chat early today. Rhonda, I guess maybe the snow's got you in. Yeah, let's see here. She says, "Hey fellas, due to the weather, I'm getting to join again today." Awesome. Well, we're glad you're here, Rhonda, for sure. Good to see you. And everyone else who joins, please jump in the comments, jump in the chat, and then of course, as always, folks, like and subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and then like the video. It really helps the algorithm for us, so we really appreciate you. But Austin, again, without further ado, let's jump right into it. We're actually going to start with kind of the primer for the Joey conversation, right? So we're going to start with this conversation surrounding a player by the name of Amari Bailey, former UCLA player. Austin, he is literally an NBA player, right? So he went to the draft in 2023, I believe, was drafted, played some in the G League, and then literally played NBA games. Austin Amari Bailey and literally played NBA games for the Hornets, if I'm not mistaken. And now, because of the Charles Bediako situation, literally what we talked about last week, Austin,
Yep.
and now he is suing to get his eligibility to come back to college. A grown man who has played professional sports, the top of the top,
Hmm.
Austin, and he's coming back to college basketball. What do you make of that, brother?
Yeah, it's literally exactly what I said literally last show. I said, we're headed down this slippery slope at this point where you have Charles Bediako, who was just a G League player, right? He played in the G League, which is still professional basketball. It's just a minor league of professional basketball. And he was granted eligibility by that corrupt judge. We talked about that. And I said, well, why don't we just call Dalton Connect and see if he wants to come play college basketball? At this point, he'll probably get paid more and he'll dominate. He'll
Yeah.
probably average 40 or 50 points a game. And why not? Because he's barely played any NBA minutes. And then literally the week of, or the week after I said that on the show, Amari Bailey, who played 10 games, he featured in 10 actual NBA games in his rookie season has decided, hey, why not me? That was literally a quote, by the way. Like he said, "Why not me? Why can't I come back after?" And they all point to this. Remember, we keep calling it the Charles Bediako situation, but really it's the James Naji situation because
Right.
Charles Bediako pointed to Naji and said, "Hey, he got eligibility, and he was a G League player." And then what did Amari Bailey say? It's like, well, look, the NCAA granted Naji eligibility. Why not me? And then Bediako and so on. It's like if depending on how this goes, Blake, depending on if another circuit court judge shoves the NCAA in a locker, like this could change college sports forever, man. And it's interesting, and we'll talk about the Aguilar stuff later, but what we're seeing is even college football players are using this and saying, hey, again, kind of like Amari Bailey, why not me? Like, why not me with all these situations? So, like, the NCAA has to do something. Unfortunately, I sent you a quote from the ESPN article talking about this Amari Bailey situation, and they once again are just begging Congress to strengthen their eligibility rules. And it's like, dude, I don't think Congress is going to be worrying about that right now. I just that's just my sneaky suspicion. I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. So with that being said, Blake, my worry is if it's not happening anytime soon, does that mean Amari Bailey's actually going to be back playing college basketball?
It's looking like we're going to be having an NBA player in college basketball again, brother. Now, the irony is that, Congress usually has a pretty low approval rating across the country. The irony is that they could get that approval rating to skyrocket if they saved college sports. But, that's the irony of the situation. But like you said, I don't think that's very high on their to-do list right now.
No.
And so, yeah, it's going to change college sports. And yes, teaser to the Joey Aguilar conversation. That is going to be a difficult part of that conversation for us as Vols fans.
Yeah, we'll wrestle with it.
Teaser for that, right? But this is unique, Austin, because you've got, and like you said, it's exactly like we talked about last week.
Yeah. It's just one step, right? It's just one step.
Exactly.
Is
it? He played G League, and it's like,
Yep.
oh, well, I sent you, a thing talking about the slippery slope, right? It's like, oh, well, it's just an international player. Oh, well, it's just a G leaguer. Oh, well, he only played a few NBA games. Oh, well, it's just LeBron James coming to dunk on Make-A-Wish kid in college basketball.
Exactly. Like, where do we stop? Well, like at some point we have to say, okay, enough's enough. If you sign any sort of NBA contract, then you can't play. And that's been the NCAA stance. The problem is they opened this can of worms with James Naji. They opened that can of worms because they said, well, he's an international guy. And I sent you something earlier, Blake. Apparently this international stuff has been going on for several years now, of teams basically taking more and more professional guys from like the Euro leagues and stuff like that. And there used to be stricter rules around it, but then it just lessened and lessened and lessened. And now we got to the point with NIL where there is no doubt all of these guys will make more money in college basketball. No doubt. Unless you're an NBA star, you're going to make more money in college basketball. So of course they're going to fight for college eligibility when the money's there. Like they're at the end of the day, they can say what they want. It's at least partly money related. Like you want to go back and you want to take advantage of those NIL opportunities. The problem is you sign an NBA contract, bud. You can't do that. And again, it's like, I just don't understand the inconsistency from the NCAA and opening this can of worms, Blake, because they've said, oh, if you sign an NBA deal, it's a no. Well, then why did you say yes to James Naji? He was a first-round pick in the NBA draft, and he signed an NBA deal. He signed a two-way contract as Bediako did. So why would you say yes to him and now cause all this? And this is just, Blake, this is a couple months. Like, it's like a month and a half, dude. This is a month and a half. We're not even talking 2 years from now or 3 years from now. Like, all of this, like the slippery slope, it's like you said on the overlay, it's a maximum velocity, dude.
Maximum velocity already. And of course it is, right? Like anyone with half a brain could see that this is the way that it was going.
Yeah.
Because of course players are going to say, especially when the money's involved, right? I think you're hitting the nail on the head that, let's be honest, it's about the money. It's about the money for everybody. And so when players, okay, they're going to NBA, okay, I'm not going to be getting paid very much in the NBA, but hey, wait a minute, now my old school, hey, they're saying they'll freaking, I can go back to college. I mean, let's be honest, college is freaking the dream, right? I mean, that's the best years of probably most of these players' lives is college, and now you get to go get paid as much or more
Yep.
going back to college.
And
Of
dominate.
course, and dominate. So of course it was going to
It's
immediately head down this
dude,
slippery slope at
of course.
maximum velocity.
Of course, because and don't think Amari Bailey's gonna, especially if he gets granted eligibility. Oh, then we're cooked, dude. Then all of these college rosters are going to start reaching out to guys with little NBA experience. And then that will just keep going, right? It'll be more and more NBA experience. Oh, you have less than 80. So the NBA season's 82 games, Blake. Well, you have less than 82 games played. I guarantee Dalton Connect fits within that, by the way. I bet he has less than 82 games on his NBA resume. There's going to be situations like that. People are calling. It's like, hey, he hadn't even played a full season in the NBA. Why can't he come back to college? Like, why can't he come get more eligibility? One quote I want to talk about too during this, because like at some point, somebody's going to have to call out the players. Like at some point, like we're going to have to, because like the NCAA is begging for Congress to step in. So they're kind of blaming them in a way. And then you have a lot of people like blaming the coaches that are taking these players in, which I totally get. That's a fair thing to criticize. But let's blame the player a little bit, man. This is a guy
Yep.
who decided to leave to the NBA after a season. That was his decision. Like he made that choice. And now that he regrets his decision because he can actually make it on the next level, he says something like this. This killed me, man, in this article. He says, it's not a stunt, talking about coming back. I'm really serious about coming back. I just want to improve my game and change the perception of me and show that I can win. Okay. You had 3 years to improve your game. Like, what are you talking about, dude? You had 3 years in NBA systems to improve your. This has nothing to do with improving your game. And listen, he's not trying to lie either and say it's about a degree. None of this is about a degree for these kids.
No.
So the stupid lawyers who are trying to make those kind of arguments, no one's buying that crap, bro. Like, I don't even think these kids are going to go to class. I really don't. I don't even think they're going to enroll in classes, Blake. So it just like we got to call out Amari Bailey. It's like somebody's got to call him out and realize, dude, you're an adult. You made the decision to leave the NBA. Get over it, dude. Get over it. Make your LinkedIn profile. Find a job. You can't come back and play college basketball, man.
I'm sure there are plenty of cars for him to insure in the greater LA area, in and around UCLA. I hear there's a lot of people over there, and so I'm sure he'll make it as a car salesman or insurance salesman. Okay, time to fire up the LinkedIn profile, no doubt. That's exactly like you said. You had your shot. Get better in the NBA. You're done with college basketball. You did your time in college basketball, and now you've gone to the next step. We just can't keep playing this game, man. Of especially, and this is going to be the distinction we make in the Aguilar conversation, which we're about to segue to. If you're just now joining us, we're going to be getting into the Joey Aguilar conversation. But this is kind of the primary distinction between this and the Aguilar situation, is that these players have literally signed NBA contracts.
Correct.
And now they're coming back to college basketball. And so it's just,
and it's such a disadvantage.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
It's such a disadvantage to the players in college basketball, Blake. It's such a disadvantage, dude, because again, you developed under the Charlotte Hornets system for 3 years. And I get like college basketball teams, especially in the SEC and some of the bigger conferences, they have really good facilities. They have really good development programs, but none of them are as good as the NBA. None of them are as good as the NBA. This kid has been playing against NBA competition or just outside of NBA competition now since being drafted. You can't throw him back into college basketball where there's 18, 19-year-old kids who have less than 1 year experience in college basketball. It's just a total disadvantage from a playing perspective. That's why you're seeing with Bediako, dude, the couple games he's played, he's basically doubled his points per game average. So then when he was at Alabama, obviously because he just developed for 3 years in the G League, and he's in his mid-20s. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, and honestly, this to me, this ties into exactly what you're just saying, which is we have to at some point hold the players accountable
Yeah,
because it's like, okay, not it's selfish and it's you're literally taking away minutes from the next guy
correct.
who wants his chance to make it, his chance to even play in college. Austin, he might be taking away minutes from a guy who knows he can't even get to the NBA, but at least wants to play out his basketball career in college, and you're taking minutes away from that guy. And so we absolutely, I mean, yes, the lawyers scum, right? They see the opportunity to make money, they're going to do it.
Yes.
NCAA, as Rhonda says in the chat, no backbone.
Useless.
Absolutely.
They're useless.
Use, useless. Absolutely. The schools, yes, they need to step up. She says Chris Lowe made the point, like, hey, the schools and the chancellors and the presidents need to step in. Okay,
I agree.
but again, everyone's so pro player that they don't want to also say, "Hey, wait a minute." Also, these players are being selfish and taking away, time, minutes, and maybe even money from another player after. And the point is coming back from professional sports.
And Blake, you made a point about the lawyers, dude. Why wouldn't you take a lawsuit against NCAA right now? That's a free
Oh, too
W.
easy.
That's a free win,
Free
dude.
chicken it.
It's
Yeah.
barbecue chicken time, bro. Like they have who loses against the NCAA at this point, man. That's the thing, and we'll get into it with the Aguilar situation, but like it's if you're suing the NCAA at this point, it's looking pretty good just by the fact that you filed the lawsuit. I mean, there's just nothing that they can do right now. It's why every time they come out and talk about this, it just gets back to begging Congress to do something to enforce their rules. It's just, yeah. I mean, it's we can say this until we're blue in the face. It's not good for college sports, obviously, because if we continue down this road, Blake, it's so clear what teams are going to do. I mean, there is going to be teams, especially teams that don't historically recruit well, they will literally just go out and assemble a NBA roster. That's like, okay,
Yep.
you might not be all stars, but hey, you played 10 games here, you played in the G League for 3 years. You get a group of 10 of those guys, they're going to dominate college students. Like they just are. They're going to dominate college athletes, dude. Because they're grown men. They're grown men. There's a difference. That's why it used to be your 4 years and then the one red shirt year. And now that's even being tested. Now people are like, well, just make it 5 years. It's like, okay, but at some point we have to have a hard stop. This is the eligibility rules. And once you decide whether you decide to leave after a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, to go to the NBA, once you make that decision is final, dude, no matter what.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And you're absolutely right that we have to draw a line in the sand somewhere. And this is honestly, Austin, and let me know if you have, another kind of point you want to bring up about this Amari Bailey situation. But this segues us into the Joey Aguilar conversation, right? That's what probably most of you are here for. So again, if you're just joining us, welcome. We're going to transition to this Joey Aguilar situation. But that's what segues to the Joey Aguilar conversation because, where do we draw the line, right? Where do we draw the line in eligibility rules? What are the eligibility rules? And then these players, as you mentioned earlier at the top of the show, even in you're looking at college basketball, you're looking at Bediako, you're looking at Amari Bailey, but now you even have college football players who are saying, okay, why not me? Just like Amari Bailey said, why not be? Now, so we're going to have some orange tinted glasses on, but we're also going to try to kind of assess it objectively. And so, yeah, talking about Joey Aguilar, as far as we understand right now, Austin, he was under the Diego Pavia lawsuit.
Correct.
And he essentially got told by the judge back on that, that day a few weeks ago that we were all kind of waiting for the news to drop. Hey, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. And it appears, Austin, that he read the writing on the wall and he said, okay, it's not looking good for me. So I'm going to strike out on my own and do my own lawsuit, especially with this Chambliss, Trinidad Chambliss, and then
Bediako.
Bediako. He is now saying, okay, I'm going to do my own lawsuit. So he's essentially removed himself from Pavia's lawsuit
Mm-hmm.
and has hired a new lawyer, high profile guy. His name escapes me, Austin, but it's a high Cam Norris is his name,
Yes.
is the lawyer's name, and he's a high profile guy who has beaten the NCAA before, has apparently even represented the president, Austin, before, and is now representing, according to legal paperwork, Joey in his new lawsuit against the NCAA,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get eligibility. So, Austin, talk us through. There's a lot to talk about, a lot of different angles to talk about on this situation.
So, just to back up a little bit, the timeline, apparently he hired the guy on Wednesday, and he hadn't at that point taken himself out of the lawsuit yet. I'm assuming Cam Norris sat down with Joey, reviewed that, because the hearing's on February 10th. The hearing for the Pavia case for JUCO players is on February 10th, and he hired Cam Norris, and I'm assuming they sat down, looked at the options, kind of read the writing on the wall, and said, "Hey, this new route is probably more likely to be successful." So that's when they got the dismissal from the other lawsuit. And it's interesting, dude, because essentially, like you said, they're using these new situations with Trinidad and with Charles Bediako to form a new argument of why Joey should be granted eligibility. And as we already pointed out, the obvious difference between Bediako, Amari Bailey, James Najee, and Joey Aguilar is that those players signed professional contracts, and Joey has not. Joey has not signed a professional contract. I will say, selfishly, I think Joey Aguilar probably gives us the best chance to win next year, Blake. So I want him back. And the reason I say that is because George McIntyre and even Faison Brandon are both unknowns. They're complete unknowns, whether they have the pedigree or not, that we don't know if they're good on the college level yet or not. So, and we know Joey under this system last year was. However, from a college football fan perspective and just overall like seeing and what's going on and with all these lawsuits and everything, it's probably best for the sport if this doesn't happen. I will say, like, it's probably best for the sport. Like, I'm of the belief I liked the 4 years, one red shirt year. I like that. Now, if it ends up where okay, JUCO doesn't count towards eligibility, I would be fine if that's where we draw the line. Like, that's the hard stop line. Like, Joey gets 2 extra years, and this would be his second extra year because of his JUCO play. Fine. If that's where it stops, then cool. But we're already seeing that's not where it really stops. Like, that's not where it's stopping. And my one issue with, and again, this is taking my Vol hat off, which is tough for me. That's tough for me as someone who has a Vol podcast and whatnot. But taking my Vol hat off, even the JUCO thing, Blake, I have a problem with it because it allows their bodies to develop 2 whole years more.
Yep.
And again, it's a grown man versus a boy conversation. Like, okay, a 24-year-old, 25-year-old is much more developed as a man than an 18, 19, or even 20-year-old, Blake. So even that's a little rough for me. I could get down with it again if it's like, okay, this is where it ends. The problem is though, and this hasn't happened yet, and God forbid it does. I hope it doesn't. I hope this is another moment where I, look like a Nostradamus, as you say, Blake. But my concern is we're going to have guys that good, and the thing is there's less NFL guys or football guys that are leaving early. That's probably why we haven't seen this yet. Like, those guys usually use all of their eligibility. But my concern is with some of these JUCO rulings and whatnot, whatever, we could see players that got drafted or maybe went undrafted, got invites to rookie mini camp, Blake, or played in NFL preseason games, but never played in the regular season. Look at the NCAA and say, hey, I never played in an actual NFL game. Why shouldn't I be granted eligibility to come back and play college football?
Yeah, exactly. It's just, and Bender Strings in the chat, asking some, kind of devil's advocate questions about, going back to basketball, how it's different from bringing in European players who played professionally overseas and things like that. And that's the point, right? And that's the issue, exactly like you're talking about with, okay, well, I'm okay with, okay, maybe it's okay if we just allow the junior college years, and that gives you 2 years extra ability. Or maybe we're okay with 5 years. Maybe we're okay with 7 years with JUCO. Maybe and when you do that, it just keeps like it's what allows these lawyers who are paid. That's their job, Austin. They're
Yep.
paid to make these arguments, right? They're paid to say, hey, wait a minute,
Exactly.
what's so different? What's so different from this than this? That's literally what the law school entrance exam is about. Like, it has a whole section dedicated to like analogies and crap, right? I mean, that's literally what they're trained and paid to do, and
But
so
that's
of
the
course it's
problem.
going to continue. Well, exactly. But that's of course what's going to happen,
And
right?
that's the problem. That's what we were talking about. And I don't know if Bender was in here for the Amari Bailey discussion, but that's what we were talking about with the Euro stuff, like the Euro League and the international professional players signing on to play college basketball. That slippery slope has been taking place since about like 2010ish, and they've been
Mm-hmm.
letting more and more, the NCAA, they being the NCAA, have been letting more and more ground to college basketball teams recruiting those Euro players and those international professional players. The thing is, if I could rewind the clock, I would say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, and at the very least have strict guidelines that say, hey, this is where we're stopping here. Like, this is the eligibility rules, and you have to follow these rules. The problem is the NCAA hasn't been able to enforce any of these rules recently, and that's what we're seeing. Um, and listen, here's my stance on it overall, Blake. If a guy like TJ Finley, for example, in college football, can go on and get 7-8 years of eligibility, and then of course Diego Pavia, or how about going to college basketball with a Charles Bediako and whatnot? If those guys are getting eligibility, of course Joey should get eligibility. Of course.
Yeah.
Like, if
Right.
they're going to get, I just think overall, again, it's more of the slippery slope. It's like, this isn't good for the overall health of the sport. I just don't think it's overall
Yes.
good for that. But at the end of the day, again, selfishly, it's like, I would love for Joey to be back. I would love, it's second year in our system, right? I would absolutely love it.
Yeah. Well, and so that's what segues us to now putting back on the Vol hat, right?
Yeah,
Putting on
correct.
those orange tinted glasses.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, get the semantics out of the way. Yes, like ultimately we would say, if gun to my head, if you said, hey, do you want Joey Aguilar to win this lawsuit? I would have to say, ultimately, I want college sports to be saved.
Yep.
And so I think that Joey Aguilar is going to give us the best chance to win, and I want the Vols to win. But if you told me, hey, do you want to, as Ryan says in the chat, as God intended, do you want the eligibility to just be 4 years in a red shirt?
Yep.
I would say yes, that's what's best. However, and this goes to our Danny White conversation, Austin, about him wanting to follow the rules and stuff. If everyone else is doing it right now, if we're not going to enforce these rules, if we're going to give all this extra eligibility, then yeah, absolutely, Joey should get it as well.
Yeah.
And now the conversation becomes, Austin, so let's talk about this. If Joey is granted this eligibility, if he does win this lawsuit, which I feel like the chances probably increased given all the current new information, I think the chances have increased. So if he does get this extra eligibility, what does that mean for our 2026 team, right? We've got 3 quarterbacks on the roster now. What happens there? What happens with, the starter? Obviously, and then also, Austin, the question is what's the situation with Aguilar and, him coming back to Tennessee? Let's talk about all that.
Yeah. So, and I'll kind of start with that because I want to go back to something you said earlier with Danny White following the rules. Remember, the guy Joey has hired, Cam Norris, didn't just help win suits against the NCAA. It was on behalf of us. It was on behalf of
Yes,
Tennessee
yes.
and the NIL
Right.
rules behind NIL in the Nico situation, unfortunately. But kind of wish that went the other way. You know what I mean? Because then we no maybe anyway. Point being is that I that makes me think that the Tennessee brass is behind this, right? Like, and
Mm,
specifically, hey, like, go get this guy. He's beat the NCAA before. And, maybe we're paying for some of those lawyer fees and whatnot. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, listen, at the end of the day,
yeah.
Blake, everyone's feeling the heat around here. Everyone's feeling the heat.
Hmm.
Heupel's feeling the heat. I mean, you can't admit, anyone who's followed the offseason has to admit that Heupel feels the heat. He does, because of just how he's handled the offseason. I also think Danny White's feeling the heat. I think he's tired of people in his mentions talking about, hey, what about that entertainment district? Like, every time we lose a basketball game or a football game, people tweeting about the entertainment district. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if they're also behind this, saying, hey, Joey, go get Cam Norris. He's won before. Use these other situations to beat the NCAA so you can come back for 2026. With that being said, if they are behind it, Blake, that kind of answers your other question, which is, what it means is that Joey would be the undeniable starter. Especially again, if Heupel and Danny White and we're pushing this, if we're pushing this at all, and maybe we're not, maybe I'm wrong about that, but if we are, that means they also believe Joey gives us the best chance to win next year. Which just makes
Yeah.
sense. He got the experience, whatever, second year in the system. Um, the interesting the interesting question I have about it, Blake, is what does it mean for specifically George McIntyre's future here? Because things get a little murky. Like McIntyre, listen, remember, just a couple weeks removed, Blake, we're talking about him on the boat with all the receivers. They're down in Miami training. Like, it definitely seemed like McIntyre thought he was going to be the guy. But if Joey comes back, you're definitely not going to be the guy. Like Joey's going to be the starter. So the question would be, it's like, and McIntyre can't transfer now, because remember, Blake, the spring portal window is no longer open. That's not a thing anymore. The spring window does not exist anymore. So McIntyre would be forced to stay on the roster. And then at that point, you'd have year 2 Faison Brandon versus year 3 George McIntyre, basically battling it out for the 2027 QB1 spot. So a lot of interesting discussions around this, and if Joey's going to come back or not.
Yeah, and we got some people in the chat here talking about, the Bender's talking about the semantics of, hey, if college sports are professional now, what does that mean? And then we got Sven in the chat talking about, so Sven, if you're just joining us, we did start this segment by talking about, hey, look, ultimately, we don't think this is the best thing for the sport,
No.
including if that means we have to suffer and not get Joey Aguilar back. But if everyone else is going to get their players to have eligibility, then you bet your butt that we want a part of that pie until the rules are actually enforced or rules are actually created.
Correct. Yeah.
And so, we want a piece of that pie. But yeah, Austin, I mean, I think you're right. I think, what seems obvious is, okay, if he is granted eligibility and it is a lock that, hey, the coaching staff is trying to get him back, the university is helping to try to get him back. And we'll figure out the politics of, like, hey, sorry, Ryan Staub, sorry, we got our quarterback back. You can go now.
But he's never. That's the thing. I don't think he was ever a part of the QB1 plans in 2026. Ryan Staub. I think it was going to come down to McIntyre and true freshman Faison Brandon. So it's an interesting discussion about all this, man, because it's like, it also creates an awkward moment if Faison is who everyone thinks he is, and he comes in and he looks really good in spring ball. See, this has got me thinking too, because it also depends on what's the timeline of Joey's new suit now. Like, how quickly are they going to be able to get this done? Because again, the February 10th deadline is no longer a thing. Like, anyone who still has that court date in their mind, just get rid of that, because Joey is no longer a part of that case. So if it takes a couple months, Blake, and we don't get the answer until March or April, but Faison comes in, or even McIntyre has developed and looks really good in spring ball, then it's one of those awkward things where it's like, well, I mean, do we want to go for the box, the big pretty 5-star box that we don't know what's inside yet? Or do we want to go with the sure thing in Aguilar? It's going to be interesting, dude. And yeah, so I don't know. I do think Joey wants to be back here, though. Like, I think that's for sure the case. I think he wants to be back. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out.
We are going to have to see how it plays out. Shout out to Sven. He says he's on vacation in Estonia. Sven, appreciate you joining the stream, brother, while you're over there. Safe travels for sure. And then Bender String says the alternate universe Sven pointed out is something he wants to see. Sven said, hey, maybe, we're going to see Tom Brady back in Ann Arbor at Michigan playing against Peyton for the Vols. And yeah, exactly. That's kind of ultimately the problem we have is how far does the slippery slope go, Austin? Do you get 50-year-old dudes back in college sports?
I don't know if we want 50-year-old Peyton at this point, sadly. I think at this point, even 5 years ago, maybe Peyton had enough in him to come back to college football, but 50-year-old Peyton, I don't know, man. With all those neck surgeries, that arm strength is, I don't even know if he can throw a football 5 yards at this point.
Yeah, probably. And why would he want to? He's doing just fine, I think. But and yeah, Rhonda says, according to Kiffin, Miami, Texas Tech, what rules, right? What rules? Exactly. So yes, we ultimately, if no one else is gonna, follow the common sense of obviously these players shouldn't get unlimited eligibility, then we, hey, we want a piece of that pie. We'd love to have Joey back, but it does create those awkward situations, Austin, that you're talking about, right? What happens? What happens with George McIntyre? Because honestly, Austin, you and I, we've talked about on this podcast. If it's GMAC, we're ready to ride with him, baby. So be it. Let's go all in on GMAC. But now, excuse me, if Joey Aguilar comes back, what does that do to that situation? Could get awkward. Could hopefully it doesn't, cause a bad situation. I don't want to lose Faison. I don't want to lose GMAC.
I don't either.
But ultimately, Joey does probably give us the best chance to win.
And I am intrigued by the box of George McIntyre and even Faison. I'm intrigued by it, man, because we've noticed this on the show. Joey's play did fall off towards the end of the year. It wasn't perfect, but I will say it didn't help that he was rocking up with the 100th ranked defense in FBS every week. Like, that didn't help. It didn't help that he had to beat Vanderbilt in an absolute shootout in Neyland. Like, that just does not help. It doesn't help that his defense is giving up 3rd and 18s to John Mateer in Oklahoma. Like all these things, I think at least the win versus loss could have changed had Joey just had a somewhat competent defense. And we're all kind of under the belief that, hey, the defense is going to get a lot better considering all the portal pickups and the coaching changes and everything like that. But I'm with you. I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose McIntyre. I don't think Faison. I know some fans feel differently. I don't think Faison committed here with the belief that he was going to play year one. I just don't think that's what happened. But it's also one of those things in college football. It's like you do have to play guys earlier and earlier, and it would suck to lose. It would definitely suck to lose a guy like McIntyre, Blake, without even knowing what we have in McIntyre. Like, without even knowing, okay, this guy's played, and like, okay, he's good or he's not good, whatever. We wouldn't even know. Like, if McIntyre, if Joey comes back, McIntyre doesn't play next year, and he decides to transfer because Faison is, breathing right down his neck, then, we would lose McIntyre without even knowing. And I've also made the point, because I know a lot of fans are looking to Faison. Like, a lot of fans are so excited, like they want the 5-star, whatever. Here's the deal. If McIntyre plays and is good, does it matter? Does it matter who we lose on? Like, right. We're just trying to find the next guy. Like, it really doesn't matter how you find your next quarterback. The question is, are you going to find your next quarterback? And is this guy the guy? Yeah, exactly. Is McIntyre the guy or not? So It's gonna be. It's gonna these next couple of months are gonna be fascinating. It's gonna be yet another off season of us like, oh, quarterback competition. Who's the quarterback? Like, who's gonna be the quarterback next year? So because I really do think, Blake, and you'll have to tell me what you think about this. I think if McIntyre and Faison are the two guys, and Joey gets denied eligibility or goes somewhere else or whatever, I think it will be an honest competition. But if Joey's back, like you're not bringing Joey Aguilar back, probably paying him $2 million plus NIL for him to compete with McIntyre and Faison. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, you're doing it for a very specific purpose. You're doing it to get Joey Aguilar back to be your starter. And Bender makes a great point in the chat. Having consecutive years of a starting QB again, we haven't had that in a while. I guess not really since Hendon.
And look what happens.
And then look what
look what
exactly.
happens. Like a fantastic point. And Blake, not only that, it's the talent you're bringing back. Like Joey's only basically losing Chris Brassel. Like that's the only legitimate piece that you're losing. And by the way, you're bringing in Tristan Keys, who could be, the best receiver we've had in years. So I'm very intrigued by year 2 of Aguilar with all the returning weaponry that we have on offense.
Yes, absolutely. And it is definitely a fantastic point by Bender, that, hey, last time it happened, we had a magical season. So selfishly, yes, even though it's not good for college football, we'd love to have Joey Aguilar back because it could be a magical season, especially as you noted with a defense that will hopefully be much improved.
Surely will be better.
It's hard to get worse, brother. So
yeah,
there's only one direction you can go, really, if you're not staying the same. So we hope that that's the case. We hope that if Aguilar does come back, but I think I do agree with you, Austin, that point you made about hey, who is the next guy? I'm excited as any fan about Faison Brandon, and hey, is he the guy? Okay, great, but he needs time to develop. And if GMAC ends up being just as great, like if you see a quarterback and we win with that quarterback,
don't matter.
Then
it really doesn't.
It don't matter what the question mark is, right?
Yes.
You never want to bank on the question mark, because guess what? Last time we banked on the question mark, we got Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah, no, Blake, that's a fantastic point. It's like, and that's the point I was just making, and I love Faison. I've talked about how Faison has started his Tennessee tenure as good as anyone, going to help out Children's Hospital and whatnot. And I think he has what it takes to be great, by the way. And if it's between, and I'll also say this, Blake, to that point of, the question mark, if Joey comes back and you have to next year, you have two quarterbacks in McIntyre and Faison in 2027 who both want to play, and you have to decide, okay, which of these question marks do I want to keep on my roster to be the quarterback in 2027? I would pick Faison. I would. I think Faison was a better recruit, and I think Faison he's reported he's already bigger than McIntyre. Like he already weighs like 20 pounds heavier than McIntyre, which is, shocking. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, he's a high school student coming right into college. So if I had to pick between the two question marks, and that was my only option, I would go Faison. Also, I think you responded to Sven's comment in the chat about why do we want Aguilar back if we didn't beat any good teams last year? Again, you have to be following Tennessee football to understand last year's team and the results. And again, Aguilar wasn't perfect down the stretch. Like we know that the turnovers amped up, but first of all, it never got to App State level turnovers, Blake. It never got there, by the way. It never got there. But it's also, dude, you have to watch the games and see the defense is giving up 40 a game. They're giving up 500 plus yards of football game. Like, what is Aguilar supposed to do when the defense is the basically fighting against Arkansas for the worst in the SEC? So that's why I think Aguilar overall was really good last year. He put us in a position to beat Georgia. Let's not forget that. We're not going to forget that, Blake. We're not going to let people forget that just by looking at the record. He put us in field goal range to beat Georgia, but we have a moron kicker who missed, who thankfully is playing for Arkansas this season. So That's why we want Joey back. He put us in a position to beat Georgia for the first time in almost a decade. And really put us in a position to win a lot of these games. Again, if he didn't have to score, dude, he would have had to score dang near 50 against Vanderbilt to win. Like, come on, bro.
Yes.
At home,
Yeah.
in the, like, come on, man. That's not Joey's fault. He doesn't play defensive line. He don't play linebacker.
Exactly. Yeah. And Rhonda just put in the chat, another great point that we found out after the season, that the dude's freaking playing with a benign tumor in his arm, and the pain that comes with that, apparently in his throwing arm, by the way. Yep. But yes, it's so to answer your question, Sven, exactly like Austin mentioned, which we kind of talked about a few minutes ago, which is, we think that he gives us the best chance to win because of the play that we saw. There's a couple critical turnovers, critical mistakes. And yes, honestly, Joey Aguilar was probably the reason we lost the Alabama game. Most likely, right? Like, you can't pin it completely on one
Also
player.
Hated that play call, by the way, Blake. And I've talked about that.
Yes,
I hated that play call too. So you have to give him, because the coaches are supposed to put your players in the best spot to win, and they didn't on that play. They cut off half the field. That's another thing. Joey made a bad throw, but it was also an awful play call in that situation.
Yes, absolutely. Bad play. So you can't put all the blame on him. But the point is like we're tracking that he made some bad plays. But ultimately, now, of course, part of it too is that it's comparison to Nico, right? And it's like, dang, he was throwing a lot more touchdowns in SEC play than Nico was.
A lot better than that.
And so thank God for that. But then also it kind of ties into Bender's point, Austin, which is, hey, that was Joey Aguilar with a couple months to develop in this system.
Yes.
By the way, other than obviously the game time he got. So a second year? Are you kidding me?
Yes.
And you see what an average player like Hendon Hooker. I mean, Hendon Hooker. If Austin, Sven's wanting to make a bet with me in the chat about if Tennessee's 100% not a playoff team or not. I'll make this bet with you, Sven. And this is a what if, but if Hendon Hooker had not been injured in his final season at Tennessee against South Carolina, Hendon Hooker would have won the Heisman Trophy. I would put a large sum of money on Hendon Hooker if he had played out the rest of the South Carolina game, especially if we'd been able to win that game, and then he had gone on to play in Vanderbilt, he would have won the Heisman Trophy that year.
And they stubbed him for being in New York. The fact that he wasn't in New York, despite the injury, blasphemy, brother. Blasphemy.
Yeah. Stetson Bennett, are you kidding me? Get out of here.
Get out of here.
So my point is that a second year with Joey Aguilar is, especially under Josh Heupel and his quarterback coaching and the staff's quarterback coaching, would love to see it. So ultimately, yes. Now, to the other part of Sven's point, Austin, and we got some other chatters in here making some good points. And I want to call those Baba in the chat. Shout out to Baba. Marcus in the chat. Welcome, Marcus. I don't know if I've seen you in the Ball Talk chat before, Marcus. So welcome. But the other part of Sven's point, Austin, is hey, develop GMAC, right? And so that's the other part of this conversation that we've been having is, okay, if Aguilar does come back, what does that mean for 2026 Vols? Because we were all in on GMAC. Well, yes. The thing is I'm not fully convinced that GMAC would, especially since we're kind of questioning his size, his physical size. I'm not convinced that him developing, as the starter for a season would be any, different than him continuing to put on muscle and develop behind Joey Aguilar and learn the playbook and continue to get reps, right? Especially if he sticks around for after Joey is gone. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I want to shout out what Rick said too, because it just kind of gets to our point, which is we think Aguilar gives us the best chance to win in 20, because again, it's a sure thing. It's a risk versus a sure thing. And Rick's right, dude. Heupel seat is heating up. And that goes into this equation, Blake. It goes into the equation. Listen, what I would love, and Blake, this is how college football used to work, by the way. The scenario I'm about to play out. Again, let's say Aguilar comes back for 26 and we do whatever. I'm not even making a prediction right now. We will be making a lot of predictions, but we're not making any right now. He comes back for 26. GMAC is still on the roster. He can't leave, Blake. He can't leave to go be a starter somewhere this season. He cannot, unless Heupel gets fired.
Yeah.
So no matter what, he'll be on the roster. Of course, Faison will also be on the roster. Here's a scenario I would like to play out. Both of those guys come back for 27 and compete for the starting job. But the thing is, we know in today's college landscape that that's not really a realistic possibility. Like, one of those guys are going to want to go start somewhere else. But again, imagine a world where GMAC has 2 years to develop and then can go in and be the starter after putting on muscle. But then, let's say he has a great year. He has a draft, like a draftable year, Blake. He goes to the NFL, and then Faison has 2 years to develop under Heupel's system and play. Now, listen, I know I'm not, unrealistic. I know that ain't happening. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
But again, that's how college football used to work. That's how these things used to play out. Players actually sat behind guys and developed and were given chances to learn and whatnot. But more realistically, if Joey comes back, let's be honest, one of GMAC and Faison are going to want out. And I think that's really depending on, okay, how does Faison look? Because clearly, I think based on our offseason moves, Blake, and remember, let's not forget the portal misses a quarterback. Let's not forget that. Like, we were trying to get a portal quarterback this offseason. Okay. I think based on that, I still don't know if the coaching staff has a lot of faith in George McIntyre. I don't think they have zero faith. I just don't know if they are like bullish on the fact that he's going to be an elite level quarterback in the SEC. So from that perspective, I think, and this all depends on how Faison looks in practice, but I think Faison will be the guy going forward if Aguilar comes back and plays this year.
Yes, I tend to agree with you. And, hey, call us dreamers for hoping, and praying for the ideal situation.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we'll wake up from this bad dream that is the hellscape that college sports has become.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to the good old days where players, sit and develop and wait their chance and earn their chance in my view. But hey, call me a boomer if you will. But honestly, Austin, this is a great discussion. We could go on and on. We got a lot of folks in the chat making great points, kind of talking about this situation and kind of going back and forth. Y'all continue to let us know what you think in the chat. If you're watching after the fact, drop us a comment. And Austin, shout out to our Spotify listeners, okay? Spotify has quietly been growing in the background. So I want to give a special shout out to you Spotify listeners. I know most of them probably come from YouTube or maybe, listen on YouTube as well. But for those of you who listen on Spotify, special shout out to you. And if y'all haven't already, go follow our Spotify as well. Drop us a comment there as well. Let us know what you think about Joey Aguilar coming back, hiring a new lawyer, and potentially being back on the 2026 Tennessee football team. What a situation it would be, brother. What else you got?
And dude, I feel like we haven't given enough thought into what the season would look like in particular. And I think, dude, I would be really excited. I would be really excited because you have to think that year 2 in the system is not going to hurt Aguilar. It's not going to hurt him. And I am really bullish on our weapons, man. I think we have really good weapons around Aguilar. And again, it's like, I don't see a scenario where the defense doesn't get better. I don't see a scenario where the coaching staff hasn't gotten better. So I think, I think Aguilar would absolutely give us an opportunity to make the playoffs in 2026. And I'm not saying it's playoffs or bust for Heupel. I don't know. I really don't know what the feeling behind closed doors is. I will say, for the fan base, people aren't gonna do 8-4 again. I will tell you that. People are not gonna do year 6 of Heupel and accept 8-4. That's just not gonna happen, man. I can tell you that from my perspective. As a Vol fan with a Vol podcast, I will not be happy with another 8-4 season, especially when, dude, last year it was all about the inexperience and the youth, and this is a young team.
Yeah.
This is a very experienced football team, especially offensively. We got experienced guys from the transfer portal. And again, the defense conversation, it's like, if the defense gets worse after last year, like, I think we can pack it up anyway. Like the defense was all time bad last season,
Yeah.
Blake. Let's not forget this. So, I mean, I think the experience there, like, I think absolutely Aguilar could give us a chance to make the playoffs. And I think anything below 9-3, fans are not going to be happy with that.
Agreed. And, hey, shout out to Marcus in the chat. He says, hey, back a few years ago, we would have loved, an 8-win season. That's true, but that's only true because it was not where Tennessee was supposed to be.
Because they hired Derek Dooley, Blake.
Because they hired Derek Dooley, orange pants, World War II historian. I'm not gonna lie, brother. That might as well have been me out there coaching. Loves history, wearing stupid clothing. Derek Dooley might as well have been me coaching the Tennessee Volunteers. And trust me, that's not a good situation that you want to be in. Okay, so that's not the standard at Tennessee, right? That's not what we want.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we thankful? Again, this podcast, we've talked about this so much.
We need a ticker.
We
need a ticker that says this.
I know. We just need to shoot the count up. How many times we got to say this? We love Heupel. We appreciate what he's done. We want him to continue to succeed. We want him to improve, though.
Yeah.
We want all of these things can be true, and then also want him to improve. And so, yes, I think you're absolutely right. And especially Austin, if Joey Aguilar does come back, I don't think that there's, if we do now, if there's some sort of crazy situation and we're like 10-2 and somehow miss the playoffs, or maybe even like 9-3 and barely miss the playoffs,
that's different.
Something like it's different. But if we're 8-4 again, or if we're 9-3 and nowhere near the playoff picture, it's gonna be it's gonna be tough. What's the problem?
And the reason that is, Blake, and remember, because this is important. A lot of Dooley's issues, you could even say Pruitt's issues. Now, Butch didn't have an issue with this. He was just an awful head football coach. A lot of the issue was Tennessee didn't have the talent back then, Blake. We didn't have the talent. Even when Heupel started here, that's why 2022 was so incredible, because even when Heupel started here, we didn't have the talent. Brother, that is no longer the case. We have back-to-back top 10 recruiting classes. That should be the core of this roster. And Heupel, for a few, even going back to 24, had a really good recruiting class, even though a lot of those guys are no longer on the roster, i.e. Jordan Ross, whatever. But the point is that it's like the talent's no longer an issue. Like this was my problem with last year's team, people. And again, this comes down because people forget, man. They forget the clock management against. I mean, these are wins against Mississippi State and Arkansas. Remember how close we were to losing those games, Blake, because of Heupel's management of the clock? They forget all these things. They forget the decision against Georgia to run the ball 3 times to go up by 8 instead of trying to make it a 2-score game. They forget those things. So what I'm saying is last year's team, I never looked at last year's team and said, man, Tennessee, they just don't have the talent this year, man. They just don't have the Jimmies and Joes. And by the way, that's going to be proven out in April. If any of y'all just want to read an article, or if you're like me and you're going to be watching the NFL draft, it's going to be proven out in April, okay? I'm seeing Colton Hood's name in the first round. I'm seeing Chris Brazel's name in the first round. Like, these are guys that were on the field every game last year. And that's not even including, Jamad McCoy, whatever. But the thing about Jamad McCoy is, Blake, this is another point that people don't point out. If the talent that we already had achieved the games that we should have won, like the Georgia game, which obviously we should have won that game, had our kicker not missed a kick, whatever, Jamad McCoy probably would have played last year, man. He probably would have played. Like, I think he was trying to make his way back, but at some point, you're not going to come back for an 8-4 football team. Like, why would you do that? So the point is, man, the talent's there. The talent is there to win. And it's been a lot of game management that has kept us from winning, or play calls in bad moments, because our head coach is trying to think about a recruiting call he has in a couple hours while calling a play, while managing the clock, while doing all this, trying to be a CEO. It's like, he can't manage all that. And that was the problem last year, Blake. And I think that's why some people are souring on Heupel.
Yes, but if Joey Aguilar comes back, we'll see what he can do. It'll be the ultimate test in terms of Josh Heupel and what he can do with a consecutive year, as Bender String said in the chat earlier. Once again, a consecutive year of a quarterback in his system, an improved defense. it's time to see. It's time to see what he's made of. It's time to see if he can improve this team and not just start to go stagnant like old Mark Richt did at
And
Georgia and so on and so forth.
the exciting thing is, Blake, he's had the offseason to do it, man. And that's what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Like everything we wanted. Like he might as well have been in the Vol Talk chat, Blake, and looking at people's wish list for things that they wanted in the offseason. Heupel has met all that's what gives me optimism. That's where the optimism comes from, because I think Heupel has he saw the areas of need, like strength and conditioning, defense, whatever, and they've attacked it hard. Now we just have to see if it works.
Yep. Yeah, some folks pointing out in the chat, Marcus and others talking about the great hires that we've made in the offseason.
Yep.
Props to Heupel, man. It's been good so far in the offseason. So now let's see the results for sure. Looking forward to it, brother. We're gonna, folks, we're gonna keep a pulse on this Joey Aguilar situation. We're going to keep a pulse on all of the off-season football news and continue to have these conversations. Like Austin said, it looks like we're in for another interesting offseason of who's going to be the starting quarterback at the University of Tennessee.
Yep.
Not really the greatest, situation to be in. We wish it was a done deal and we had a great star that we knew was going to be starting. But instead, we're going to have interesting conversations all offseason. So be sure to subscribe, turn on the notifications to see whenever we drop our videos and go live to continue this conversation. But Austin, we're keeping a pulse on off-season football news, but we're in basketball season, brother.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the men's basketball are on a
little run.
They are
a little run.
They're on a little bit of a hot streak. Now, also, quick teaser, Austin, and really all this whole last hour of talking was really just a stall until the Lady Vols could come back from a 13-point deficit against UConn.
Ooh.
And I'm happy to report, Austin, that at halftime, our Lady Volunteers are tied with
Let's
the number one
go.
undefeated UConn
Let's
Huskies,
go.
42-42 at
Love
halftime.
it.
So, folks, we're going to be here in a few minutes. We're going to be handing you off. Go watch the Lady Vols. Hopefully we can win this game again. That would be awesome. And we're about to talk about the Lady Vols here in a second, Austin, but that would be huge. But right now we're talking about the men's basketball, and Austin, we are on a bit of a roll. And and we talked about this, Austin. We talked about, hey, Ament is looking like he might be finding his stride. This team, maybe is starting to find a little bit of a stride in general. And now we've beat Georgia. Of course, it took overtime to do it, but we did beat Georgia. And then recently had a very sound win against Auburn. So not looking too bad so far, brother.
Yeah, it's really not. They're starting to play better. They're shooting better from the free throw line, man. I think that's been the biggest difference. They've been shooting way better from the foul line, which has been kind of our kryptonite early in the season. And Ament is playing better. He's playing a lot better, dude. He's getting more aggressive. He didn't shoot great from the field last night, but again, he was getting to the line. He went 12 of 15 from free throws. Looked really good from that perspective. So, listen, I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm not going to say we're going to start competing with the best teams in college basketball. I think we're too inconsistent to do that. But at least my worries have been kind of answered about, okay, is this even a tournament team? Like, that's like after the Kentucky meltdown, that was kind of the worry. And that, man, I'll have that game circled all year, because it's like, dude, like, man, if they just didn't blow that game. I know you can't go back and look at that kind of stuff and say but that really does suck, because we would seriously be on a roll right now had we not just absolutely melted down against Kentucky. But it was a gritty win against Georgia on the road, which honestly we were trying to blow that game too, but we kind of dominated overtime, looked really good. And then, we also beat VFL, Bruce Pearl's son, head coach of Auburn now. Like, I had no idea he played here, by the way, until this week. I had no clue until people said. I had no idea. Obviously, I know Bruce Pearl coached here, and I knew he was his son was the new head coach of Auburn, but I did not know he played here. But, beat him in his return to Old Thompson Bowling.
Yeah. Hey, look, Bruce Pearl is an interesting situation. Had a a good run at Tennessee, short-lived run, unfortunately. But yeah, old Bruce Pearl's son. I don't even remember his name. I want to say Tyler, but that was Pat Summitt's son.
Mm.
So anyway, but yes, beat Auburn, Austin, and their return and a Pearl return to Thompson Bowling Arena. So yeah, men looking good, brother. We're continuing to look decent in SC play, like you said. The what if you don't blow that Kentucky game, and we are still inconsistent right now. But at the very least, we're getting W's. We're getting those win column ticks. So that's what you want to see. Rhonda making fun of Austin for not listen, Rhonda, you'll have to forgive him. He's 2008. He was still fairly young at that point. So.
I was watching back in the Bruce Pearl days. I didn't realize his son played here. I'll be honest, I didn't realize. Now did he play significant minutes? Was he like a good player?
No.
Okay.
No.
So it was like a Butch Jones' son situation. You remember when Butch Jones' son was our third string kicker, Blake?
Yeah.
And he looked like a third string kicker too, by the way. I'm not making fun of the guy, but he looked like a third string kicker.
No, of course he did. Of course he did. And yeah, well, we won't go into that. But yes, no, it's not like he had significant minutes or anything like that. But anyway, loving to see what the men's basketball has been able to do so far on this little run, and we'll hope it continues. Austin, the men's basketball team, they again just beat Auburn. We have now got Ole Miss coming up on Tuesday, and then a rematch with Kentucky coming up shortly after that. Austin on next Saturday, the 7th. So we're definitely going to be keeping a pulse on that. And then Austin, shout out to Sven after the Kentucky rematch. Will be playing Mississippi State. And so we're going to be keeping a pulse on that. And hopefully, Austin, the men can get some vengeance on Mississippi State. So I'm gonna briefly, just very briefly, give Sven a little tiny moment of he can take his victory lap. So folks, if you don't know, we welcome all chatters at the Vol Talk podcast. We love our Vols fans, but we've got a few sprinkled in here. Shout out to Jace. Number 2 team, we welcome Jace. And then we've got Sven, who is a Mississippi State fan. And so look, yes, the Lady Vols, Austin, they did drop
to
Mississippi State at home.
It was a confusing one,
pretty
man.
Awesome.
It was confusing. It was like they had been on a roll in SEC play. It was at home. And yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense. It didn't make a lot of sense. Unfortunate, because it would have been nice to have momentum going into this game, but maybe it was a look ahead spot. Blake, because right now, listen, we were 30-point underdogs against UConn, so it's significant that we are tied at halftime at the moment. Maybe we're looking ahead, Blake. Maybe Mississippi State in the midweek was a trap game, and that's why we lost, and they were looking ahead to UConn. So, hey, if they beat UConn, it's fine. All is forgiven. We're good.
110%. If Kim Caldwell can beat the undefeated UConn Huskies, 30-point underdogs. Like
30 points, that's just
dude. Nuts. That's the state of women's basketball. It's crazy that the number 15 team is 30-point underdog to the number 1 team. But such is life. But like you said,
brother, hey, we're showing up. We are showing up.
We're showing up, folks. It is currently tied 42-42 at halftime. Lady Vols versus the Connecticut Huskies. So I'm going to keep a pulse on that. Of course, once you're done tuning into the Vol Talk podcast, you can head over and watch the Lady Vols. If you're not
just
already
watch us on your phone and have the Lady Vols on the TV.
See,
how about that? Double screen.
That's the big brain play right there. Have us on your phone, and then got the Lady Vols on the big screen. But definitely, Austin. I mean, it's a great look for Kim Caldwell, and honestly, Austin, even if she can play it close, if she can keep this game close, if these Lady Vols can keep this game close, then that is, I think
Huge.
that's a win. Obviously, we want to actually win the game, but that would be huge. So, Lady Vols, other than that Mississippi State drop, unfortunate, have been looking pretty good for the most part as well, especially in SEC play, and currently tied with UConn 42-42 in halftime. So go Lady Vols, go men's basketball as well. Austin, we're going to continue to keep a pulse on the basketball teams, brother. But hey man, it's been another fun show. We're just over an hour, folks. We promise you at least an hour of Vol talk every Sunday. We have delivered an hour, Austin. What else you got? Any final words? Any final thoughts?
The Aguilar conversation ended up going pretty long. We thought maybe, who knows, maybe it's a little 45-minute, but of course we like to yap about our Tennessee football team. So, but yeah, dude, it was a good show. Good show. Hopefully the Lady Vols can get the W.
Hopefully they can. Rhonda says in the chat that apparently some of the players were late for the shoot around for the Mississippi State game. Hopefully Kim Caldwell corrected that, and hopefully she's got them up for this game, because this is a huge one for our rivalry. But folks, again, it's been a great show. If you're just joining us, we do apologize that you missed the Joey Aguilar conversation. Go back and rewind. We ended up spending a great deal of time on this development with Joey Aguilar, hiring a new lawyer, having a new lawsuit, and potentially increasing his chances to come back to the Tennessee Vols for 2026. But before that, even, we talked about the current state of college sports and how quickly we're spiraling down with all this eligibility stuff. So go back and watch that as well. But we really appreciate you all joining us for this episode of Vol Talk. It's been a fun one, folks. Like the video if you haven't already. Please do us a favor and like the video at the very least. It really helps us out. And then, of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I said earlier, go subscribe to the Spotify. You'd be surprised. Spotify, it's a fun place. You can listen without having to watch the video. It's pretty nice. I don't know why you'd want to listen to my brother's voice, in your ear. But hey, it's an option. I'm kidding, of course. He's got the greatest takes on the internet. But folks, we're going to catch you all after these basketball games this week. We've got some basketball games coming up throughout this week. But as usual, we will catch you guys next Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Until then, as always, baby, go freaking Vols.
GBO.